So, we are the result of a very, very bored and very, very lonely woman. What gives? Hello and welcome to the Chain Smoking Writers channel. In case you didn't know, that's me, Api Ngo, the Chain Smoking Writer. Well, today we are going to talk about the creation of humans and how we came about, basically our origin story. So let's get on with it. So eons after Pangaea created the world, a goddess saw this beautiful place that Pangaea created and decided to come over for a visit. Now she had the face of the most beautiful woman you can imagine and the lower torso of a snake. So basically a half human, half snake kind of form. And her name was Nuwa. Nuwa traveled all across the landscape that Pangaea has created, taking in the scenery, appreciating all the beauty that this world had to offer. She was admiring the stars and the constellations in the sky, the rivers and the streams that flowed beautifully into the sea, the trees and the plants and all the flowers that was growing upon the land, and basically all forms of birds, animals, insects that populated this new world. I mean, you have to imagine this, imagine looking through the eyes of Nuwa at this totally new creation that has never been seen before. But although this world was beautiful and amazing and Nuwa was in awe of what Pangu or Pangaea has created, but there was this sense of emptiness that hung heavily upon her. There was this feeling that, something was missing, something was not there that should be there, and it felt incomplete to her. So Nuwa spoke to the mountains and the trees, she lamented to the rivers and the streams, and she confided in the birds and the beasts and the animals, but none of them could understand her. So they couldn't reply to her, they couldn't give her answers. And they offered no solace to this deep feeling of emptiness that she felt inside her. This feeling that she later came to understand as loneliness. And although there was a lot to see and a lot to be amazed by in this new world, after a while it kind of just gets a bit old, right? And coupled with that deep feeling of loneliness, Nuwa fell into a funk, basically a state of melancholy, and she did not know how to get herself out of this deep feeling, this deep helpless feeling. But one day when she was just sitting beside a stream and looking down deep in thought, pondering about how she could do something to alleviate this sense of emptiness that she has within her, a leaf fell from a nearby tree onto the stream, and it sent ripples across the mirror smooth reflection that she's seeing from the surface of the stream. And this gave her an epiphany, and she realized what has been missing in this world from the start. I mean, what's missing are sentient beings, beings that are capable of thought and speech like herself. And in order not to spend an eternity in solitude like Pangu or Pangaea before her, she decided that she would create new life with her own hands. So Nuwa looked around her to see what material she could use to create this new life she had in mind. And all she could find were the mud and the clay that was very plentiful, along the banks of the stream that she was sitting at. So what she did was that she dug up this clay and this mud, and she started making little figurines, like the little toy figurines you get from Mattel and Hasbro and stuff like that. Yeah, and she used her own image as a reference to create these new beings. But you're wondering now, they are still just clay figures. How are they sentient? How are they, communicating, and how are they alive? So that's where magic came in. So Nuwa decided that these little beings should be sentient and they should have the capacity for independent thought and emotions. So Nuwa blew upon this figurine and gave it breath. And very soon, this little figure jumped up and sprang into life, and it was everything that Nuwa had hoped for. So Nuwa was greatly pleased and extremely happy with what she had created, and she decided to name this new creation Ren, which was the Chinese word for humans or man, depending on how you look at it. And in order to prevent her new creation from suffering her fate of loneliness and boredom, she decided she would make many new little companions for her creation. And now she started digging up more mud and creating more figures and breathing life into them basically. And some of these got the masculine or the yang breath and became males. And the others she would give the yin breath and they would become females. And thus, very soon, the land was populated by these new human beings. And still, she wants to make more of them to really spread out all across this land that Pangu has created. But there was a problem. I mean, handcrafting individual little figures is, pretty time consuming and extremely inefficient. So she had to come up with an idea, and she started thinking, how can I do this faster? How can I make it more efficient? I don't think she had accessibility to factories and stuff like that, so she had to come up with something. And she looked up, and there was this thick grove of vines that was growing just alongside the stream. So what she did was that she plucked a stalk of vine and she dipped it into the stream and she dabbed it onto the mud and she flung it out over the land. And every single droplet of the mud that touches the earth sprang up into another new little human being. And more of these little human beings spring into life with every single swing of the vine in Nuwa's hand. And all these little people, our ancestors presumably, they started going off across the land in groups. They started moving into the mountains, into the forests, onto the plains, and they started building settlements for themselves, and they lived according to the environment that they were in and that they settled on. And having created all these new living beings, these new humans, Nuwa was glad and she was satisfied with the work she had done, and the feeling of loneliness, that feeling of emptiness dissipated. But at the same time, it was tiring work. I mean, seriously, first you're handcrafting, artisanal little figures, and then you're mass producing them. So it was really tiring work for her. And seeing that this new life is establishing itself on the land, she decided to take a step back and get her much needed rest. So Nuwa took a rest away from the world for a period of time, and when she was sufficiently rested, she decided to walk the land again to see how her creations are doing. And what happened was, she came to a clearing and she saw all these little figures, these little human beings, all of them were lying on the ground, stiff and cold. These humans had grown old and they have all died during her period of rest. And this greatly disturbed Nuwa. So Nuwa came to a realization that this new life, these human beings, have a limited lifespan and they will grow old and they will die. And if she wants to populate the land for eternity, she would have to, keep creating them over and over again, making them over and over again, maybe in batches or something like that. And that wouldn't cut it, would it? So she has to come up with a way for these human beings to reproduce themselves and propagate themselves. And thus, Nuwa took reference from Pangu's creations. She took a leaf out of how the animals that Pangu created reproduce themselves, and she transplanted that ability into humans to allow humans to meet between male and female to reproduce a next generation. But because humans were made in the image of deity and they are sentient beings, so Nuwa also came up with a idea or a concept of marriage or mates for life to differentiate these humans from the beasts and the birds and the animals of an earlier creation. Having solved that problem, the new humans, prospered for many, many generations after that, living under the protection of the mother goddess Nuwa. But one day, catastrophe struck. Half the sky broke apart and fell away. Like really, the sky just literally broke, revealing and opening out into the void beyond. I mean, stars were swallowed up, constellations just disappeared, and pieces of the sky fell onto the earth and created huge, massive destructions, killing untold number of lives. And basically, it felt like the entire world was breaking apart and all existence was going to cease there and then. The land just split apart, flood waters came rushing in, and mountains were exploding. The monsters and the beasts and the predators in the forest were running out because the forests were on fire, and all these beasts and monsters were decimating the human population because they were afraid and they were hungry and they were looking for food. And this was catastrophe of existence ending level. And of course, Nuwa was greatly alarmed by all these things that were happening. And she was fighting hard to protect her children from dying off, from being destroyed by this catastrophe. So what Nuwa did was that she traversed across the mountains and into the seas and collected these 5 colored stones and ores from all over the land. And then she went into the woods and the mountains to collect bales after bales of vegetation and dried wood and stuff like that. And with the vegetation, she started a massive fire. And into this fire, she threw the 5 colored stones and ores. And for the next 81 days, she forged non-stop, no rest, no sleep, just pedal to the metal, forging, and end of the 81 days, what she made was a disc that was 120 feet thick and 240 feet wide. And now with this proof of concept, she knew she could make this product. For the next 4 years, she continued with a non-stop forging. And at the end of these 4 years, she made 36,500 of these 120 feet thick and 240 feet wide 5 colored discs. And including the first one she made as a proof of concept, she made a total of 36,501 of these 5 colored discs. Of those, she used 36,500 of them to fix the sky. What she did was, she lifted this giant disc and fitted it to the broken parts of the sky. And this disc filled in the cracks and reformed itself around the original parts of the sky and created new stars and created the new moon, and it slowly pieced itself together over time. And with great effort, the sky was finally fixed, the land was finally repaired, and peace once again came to the land, and humans went back to their peaceful life, went back to their normal lives, to be productive and to propagate themselves, and all was good again. And seeing that catastrophe has been averted and the people are back leading their normal lives again, Nuwa decided to gift humans with another creation. So she taught the humans how to make this thing called a sheng huang, which is basically a reed panpipe. So basically she gave humans a kind of musical instrument so that they could relieve themselves or have some form of entertainment after the toils, in the day, after their hard work, trying to survive in this world. They might have some form of entertainment to relieve their fatigue at the end of the day. And after all this was done, Nuwa was satisfied that her work on this realm is finally completed. And so she got on to her thunder carriage that was drawn by a dragon with a white wyvern in front that's blazing a trail for her chariot, and a winged serpent at the back, at the rear, as a kind of a rear guard. They departed the realm and ascended to the high heavens, where she has resided as the mother goddess of the land. Well, this was another interesting story, apart from the story about the creation of humans, of man. I think the interesting part of this was when we are talking about the breaking of the sky and how Nuwa repaired it, because archaeologists have found that during prehistoric time there was an actual extinction level catastrophe that happened when there was a meteor strike on Earth. And this meteor actually entered into Earth's atmosphere above the region of northern Sun Sea area, and it exploded in the sky. So you can imagine that fragments of these meteors will be showering down onto the land. And it was so devastating. In fact, it affected almost the entire northern hemisphere of the planet. If you're talking more regionally, this explosion of the meteor above the sky and the resulting shower of rocks that came down covered what is roughly the northern area of Sun Sea to basically the central area of Hebei. And this created such a huge devastation. We could say that it practically wiped out a burgeoning civilization. Mind you, this was a prehistoric civilization of early, most probably Paleolithic humans. And it almost wiped out the entire civilization at that time. And what happened was that after this catastrophe, the survivors rebuilt their lives and rebuilt a newer civilization over what had came before. And this could possibly be where this story about the sky breaking and Nuwa fixing the world came from. I mean, it could have started from an oral tradition that was passed down through generations until we had written word and written records for things like that. And over time, it evolved into this beautiful story. So that's something to think about. What about you guys out there? Do you have mythology or creation myths along the same lines? Do you have stories in your culture about meteor showers and the devastation of humankind around that time period? I mean, if you do, I would love to hear it. Just leave it down in the comment section. Yeah. In the story, we know that Nuwa created 36,501 of these 5-colored discs. And she used 36,500 of them to fix the sky and to repair the world. And the question now is, what happened to the last one? Well, there are a few different versions of the outcome of this last remaining disc. And the most interesting one is that it actually fell to Earth and landed on top of a mountain. And the name of this mountain was Flower Fruit Mountain, Hua Guo Shan. And for those of you in the know, will know where this is going. Because this landed on the top of this mountain, it became a giant piece of rock. And what happened was that over the thousands of years that it was there, it started absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon, and basically the essence of the universe. And after all this time of incubation, one day this rock just boom exploded, and out of it came a monkey. And this monkey was named Sun Wukong. For those of you who know, or maybe you don't, that's basically the monkey god or the monkey king that you hear a lot about in a very famous Chinese story. Well, So there's a bit of trivia for you. So if you feel that I've earned the privilege of your time and you like this video, please click the like button. And if you like to see more content like this, click the subscribe button right here, right? Should be here. There's a button here or below. And click the bell icon so you get notifications whenever a new video and new story drops. And I guess I'll see you soon.